let's go to the ERC404s real quick. So, and I'll have you explain this. We just had a in chat, Hex Girl just wanted to understand what they even are. We talked a little bit about them for the first time on the show last week, but when did you start like looking into these? Because I heard you say that you were doing this a while ago, and at least looking into the model of technology. We saw, and admittedly, we don't know too much about Pandora on ETH, but it looks like they kind of got the ball rolling. And then I swear to God, I mean, it was only a couple of days for me even like really hearing about Pandora and what they were doing until all of a sudden you've got GOFURS launching. We see it on ETH, we see it on Pulse like a day later. So when did you start really getting interested in what that technology was, and then you can kind of explain what an ERC404 is, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, so for quite some time, I've always been really fascinated by the concept of like digital collectibles, and I like digital collectibles where there's like a liquid aspect to it. Like probably the first thing that was roughly related to this category was a thing called socks, which was when Uniswap first launched. They minted 500 tokens, put them in a liquidity pool, and then they made 500 pairs of these unicorn themes, and that was probably the only thing that actually outperformed Hex in the bull cycle last year. It went from like less than $100 to like $200,000. And so wow. It went from like dollars to like even more, like, so it was on the scale of like Hex's like total bottom to total top performance. And that you trade the ERC20, and then when you would redeem the socks, the actual physical socks you put on your feet, you would burn the token. It would mint you an NFT just as like a commemorative thing, and then they'd mail you the socks. And so I thought that was a really cool concept where you had a token that was deflated because people were buying it and then burning it to get something else. And so at first people were burning it to get the socks, but then because you got that NFT, when that NFT craze was really going off, people were just buying it to burn it for the NFT. And so that's what really drove the price up. So that was kind of the first time I've like experienced a ERC20 token that was like kind of related to an NFT thing. So that was kind of the first inkling of that just concept. Actually, when I was making Pool Party, there's an aspect of Pool Party where there are these things called name tags, and they're just NFTs related to words. They're loosely related to an image that has the word, but they're strongly on-chain related to, in an immutable way, to a word on-chain. And so it's like 0 through 9 characters. There are some bad words that were omitted from the available one, but it's just like basically words. And those are used as part of like a name registrar for the stake pools that launch, just so people would, have the chance to have a unique brand. So that was kind of it was just kind of an add-on to that to just improve the stake organizer experience. But so that contract actually has, it's the parties in ERC20 token, but then with these name tags are ERC721 NFTs, and the ERC contract is what is considered the owner. I think owner is a bad term for that, but it's like in the code you'll see it says owner, and so the party token contract is what governs the minting of these NFTs. And so, and while I was building that, I was looking into this other token standard, which is called ERC1155, which allows you under a single contract address to deploy both MOL tokens, like ERC20 and then also NFTs. So I had almost built the whole Pool Party system on ERC1155, but I chose not to because I didn't want to drastically the token type for something, because people had already known the stake pools and those are kind of tried and true. So I didn't want to introduce too many big changes to that. So I had been actively seeking solutions for a single contract that did both ERC20 and NFT stuff. And so just while we were waiting for the Pool Party audit last Friday, I wake up and I see Golke had just made a post about ERC404. And instantly when I saw NFT and ERC at the same time, like, oh, like I've literally been thinking about this. And so then I read the Pandora code. And so I was like, oh, wow, this actually could be quite easy. And at that time, they didn't even have a website. It was just on Exchange. I'm like, okay, that's usually the thing that takes the longest to build is the front end. So I'm like, okay, like, if you launch this and just where the whole experience is buying it in from the DEX, that will take no time. And so from the time that I had, and I'd seen the ERC404 stuff kind of bubbling up in conversation over the prior week, but like that was what really drove me to take action. So from reading that to deploying GOFURS was probably like maybe 8 hours or so.
Wow.
That's crazy.
But it's very, very simple. And I think is because I had already been kind of thinking on a concept like that. And then it was just kind of an opportunity so it was, that was kind of how that unfolded. And to answer her question about the ERC404s, you can think of it like a token that once you get more than one of them, an NFT suddenly appears in your wallet. But then when you send the token and now your balance is less than one, the NFT. So it's like holding a token that you can buy from a decentralized exchange, which is generally a better experience from a buyer's perspective. The market's just a little more efficient from the liquidity pool model versus the listing of NFTs like on OpenSea or other marketplaces. So that's really the ERC404 concept, is that it's a token that acts like both a normal token and an NFT.
I think like the simplest way of saying it too is like just a fractional, way to buy fractions of an NFT. Like GOFURS, for example, last I looked was about 900 on Pulse, but was up at 1150 or something like that the other day. So, some people, especially in the last bull market with certain NFTs, might have just felt like, I don't want to shell out X amount of money to buy one right now. But you can DCA into them actually with this technology, which I think is really cool.
It definitely allows people to capture the upside of demand for the NFT without having to own a full one. It could get unreasonable. Like the GOFURS, those GOFURS guaranteed 10 gazillion % return. So once it goes, it may be quite expensive. So
yeah.
And I tried to capture that number on tonight's thumbnail, but I wasn't quite sure what a gazillion did.
Yeah, how many zeros are in a gazillion?
I did my best. Only the GOFURS know. Did you have a follow-up there, Ewok? I was going to continue with the GOFUR stuff and then throw it over to you for the pool party stuff.
Well, yeah, I do kind of, because I had a theory last week that we were talking about on stream. If you are at one and you have the minted one and you sell just a little bit that gets burned, you buy it back, you get a new one. Does it necessarily make it the same one, or is it randomized? And could you get a completely different one? And if you did that enough, could you really end up getting a lot of the rare ones that way?
Yeah. So basically, because there is that kind of recycling, because the contract doesn't know like what your other address is. Like anytime a new address, has a balance, it checks, and it randomly assigns at the time of checking. But yeah. So the way I view it is that by holding it, you actually have 6 NFTs. And then one of them is being publicly presented on your wallet at any given time, because you could just shuffle back and forth. And that actually, I think, comprises a lot of the trading volume. I think people actually like shuffle in and out. And so that's how I view it, is that scarcity isn't necessarily like hard baked in. I think there are some scarcity like in low numbers, because the way that the NFTs increment, like if you recycle, you could be incrementing the IDs, but then the ones that you had in the past go away. So I think very low IDs could be very valuable, and because you can transfer them as an NFT and it retains the ID and I think that there's the scarcity isn't necessarily related to the image. I think the scarcity is probably related to the low number, and then also the scarcity, if you like do some sleuthing and look like, okay, this person got the one that only goes for one of 8 people, they got that on the try. You can kind of deduce how many times it took to arrive on that. I think there's some scarcity in that, but there hasn't really been a premium on any of them on the NFT marketplace, and I think that's mainly because the DEX pool is just so liquid, so it kind of doesn't make sense to overpay on that. And so I think the market is more centered around the ERC20 form, and I think the NFT part, I think that's just like a fun magical experience of getting a token on a DEX, and then now you have an NFT. I think that's just actually really rewarding experience. Like sitting there, even though like it almost doesn't matter which image you get because you basically have all 6, but that suspense of buying it and then waiting to see which one you got, I think is actually a really like it kind of tugs on the heartstrings a little bit. So I think that's like the value of that really.